Welcome to Joe's Astrology, and there is no such thing as a bad astrological birth chart. However, with a birth chart and with consulting with the person, speaking with them, learning about their life, now the chart can become bad. So I'm going to take you through a couple of charts in this video and show you how this works and show you what a bad chart looks like. So theoretically, anyone's chart can be good or bad depending on what the person's life looks like. So here I'm going to put up a chart, March 28th, 1968. I don't have the time for this chart, but I have it up here on the screen. And this is a judge. This is a criminal judge who judges criminal cases. I don't know how you say that. And we see here she's born in 68, so she's in her 50s. And she just did a case. I'm not going to mention the case. Although I did do a video on it. And I watched her in some of the case of the trial. And you can see here she has a lot of retrograde down here. And she has a stellium in Aries. So I'm basing all the little that I know about her, I'm basing it on what I saw in the trial. And you could look at this chart and say, okay, well, there's lots of retrograde. That's got to be a bad chart. It could be a bad chart. There's a stellium in Aries, Saturn-Sun conjunction, pretty much a Saturn-Mars conjunction, all in Aries. So typically you think like Saturn-Mars, that's bad. And you could say that. But this person's supposed to have high status and high responsibility in society, in society's eyes. So you'd think that doesn't really make sense because she's a judge. She's an attorney. She's 7 years of school. She's supposed to be protecting society. So I'm going to get into that. During this case, just describe the case a little bit. It was a rape charge, a rape trial. There was no evidence of rape except the person's testimony, I believe. And when she was she gave him a life sentence for, more likely than not, wasn't even rape. It was a complete bogus case. But let's just say could have been a real case, and gave him life and said that he was a master manipulator, and that the reason she gave life or made it more strict because he had no remorse. So this is a lady here. We see this Venus in Pisces. This is where the chart gets bad. She feels that she is in charge of protecting a country of people. Okay? And she's going overboard in her interest in protecting a country. And you could just see by just that case alone, I'm sure I could make this a little bit more deeper. I'm going to try not to. I don't want to offend anyone. I'm not saying that she shouldn't be a judge or anything like that. But I could go more in depth than that. But I just want to pinpoint here with this stellium in Aries. Saturn, Mars on the north node. So we have all these planets, specifically Saturn and Mars in Aries, moving to the north node. There's extreme imbalance in this person's life, meaning they put a lot of time and energy of their life into this one thing. Now, we don't have the houses, but we could say this idea of being a prosecutor. Now, she's a judge, but I think she probably was a prosecuting attorney before that. And she's clearly a biased judge who is working for the prosecution. And you got to imagine that a person who's been a judge is spending a lot of time in to become a judge and that kind of job, etc. So just so much of her life is spent on this one thing. You know, where are her other interests? They probably don't exist. Like true investment in other things. And that's the main thing I wanted to point out with this chart, is that it's not a bad chart in and of itself, but when we look at what the person does, we can see that questions could come up as to why are you spending so much of your life in one direction. We can come up with answers to that. Some of the answers might not even be under her control, although she still has free will. She's just maybe not aware of it. And then we move down here to the retrogrades. And the retrogrades are pointing that she's redoing something. And the Pluto retrograde here and the Neptune retrograde is pointing back to her soul. And this is a person who should be, this is another problem that can become a problem, in combination with what I just mentioned. She should be individuating. And I'm sure in her mind, the individuation piece comes from her improving her career and standing out as a judge, and even sentencing, even the idea of that sentence of giving someone life because they're a master manipulator in her mind. That's a way of her to individuate and stand out, putting down coming down really hard on someone for something that she would be unique for. And she's probably unique for as being a judge, as being a very Saturnian and just a hard-ass person. So we can look at the Jupiter as well. Jupiter in Leo, redoing this Jupiter in Leo. What could that be? Well, it could just be becoming a judge, redoing this idea of being a judge in Leo, and maybe rethinking the idea that you are the queen, reconsidering that you're the king, and maybe that you've abused your powers as the queen or the king in this life. We see the Jupiter-Neptune square, and we can make, we can see more evidence of this with that square there. This idea of the judge, her being an attorney, her position in life. Is she really using her powers to protect people, or is she enabling the victims? And I'm not saying that victims might not need to be protected, but in this case, the question can be asked. She has this Venus here in Pisces, and you could say it's hard to say with a Venus in Pisces that it's a bad chart, but then we have Mercury there, conjunct Mercury. And what does Mercury do? Mercury can act as a trickster. Mercury lies. So Mercury can deceive. So is that person deceiving herself with her charity as judge, protecting the vulnerable and the people that in her mind, need to be protected. So that's the first example I wanted to point out as how a chart can be bad or good. And of course, this person is probably not a bad person in her life completely. I'm sure there could be many people who think she's a good person entirely. It's all kind of relative and up for opinion. I mean, you could say that it's not up for opinion, but the general population would say that it's relative and up for debate. And here's the second chart that I'm going to look at. Again, I do not have the time. And this is a person that I know. And just a quick background of his part of his life. Early in his life, we can see here when Pluto was making a trine to all that Aquarius. This person had some trouble early in his life. He was arrested and almost jailed for a long time, got out of it, and it really woke him up to becoming a lot more responsible and not getting into drugs and criminal activity, etc. And we can see here there's a stellium in Aquarius. So very similar to the last chart, a lot of energy in the same place. And this time it's in a fixed sign, Aquarius. We could also see again, we see that Saturn and Mars involved. Saturn, Mars, Moon, Sun, and a stellium there. Usually you might look at this chart and say, oh, Saturn, Mars is a very harsh person, etc., etc. And he's tough. We see this Jupiter, Venus in Aries. This is a guy who's very tough, like very, very tough, very competitive. And we also see that same Jupiter-Neptune contact there. Here it's in a quincunx. See the Pluto retrograde, Uranus retrograde. So with all that Aquarius, it also has Mercury in Aquarius. With all that Aquarius and that Pluto retrograde, Uranus retrograde, this is another person who's in a state in life who's individuating. So this is where it can become a bad chart. This person went from that, became, had a family, became a father, has a really good job in his field or it works really well with his chart. And seemingly on the outside, this guy, turned his life around and it's going really well. But here we can see with this Aries and this fixed stellium and the South Node in Capricorn. With that South Node in Capricorn, he's coming from a place of taking responsibility and being a father and being a protector and taking care of things. And here we see Jupiter. It's in a square to that South Node. It's squaring the nodes. And because it's moving away from the South Node, there's an imbalance there, and he's integrating the two nodes. And the way for him to integrate the nodes in this life is to be that Capricorn person. And this is where, hopefully you're still with me. I know it's kind of long-winded. And I'll do this again. I'll be making more videos on this. Leave any comments if you have any questions. Probably going to do this again and talk more about this topic. But here he has Jupiter square the nodes, and he's integrating that Capricorn. So if this person, especially with that individuating Pluto and Uranus, if he takes it too far, where he has to do this in this life because of his circumstances. So an example of this would be the family or in his mind or whoever thinks he needs to continue to make as much money as he's making. Let's say he's making $200,000 a year. And let's say that's part of his individuation in his mind to make sure the family has X, Y, and Z. And you can see this right here in the chart with the imbalance. That fixed energy, this guy you could say this person might, who knows what he'll do, what he would do to maintain his lifestyle. Who knows what he would do to protect and to maintain his status, that Capricorn status. And it could, we see with Jupiter here, it could be, this could involve a lot to do with beliefs. So if this person, let's say, can change, if he gets into that position and he can alter his beliefs, then there'd be no danger there. Now, knowing this person, I think he would alter his beliefs. However, how many people do you know that would die for certain things or take things to the extreme? So that's where this chart could get bad. And I can do a lot of charts on that fact there, that idea that there's a problem with beliefs. And if the beliefs, I would say in normal person, they would alter their beliefs before they take it too far. But that could be my optimism. Who knows? Okay, I'll do one more here. So-called bad chart. Notice I haven't said anything about the signs. It's very unlikely that you'll ever hear me say a person is bad because they're a Virgo or a Gemini. It's not gonna happen because it's not true. So here we have a lady who was, I believe, divorced and had like 3 or 4 kids to maybe 2 different men, or maybe it was just the guy that she was divorced to. And she's from another country, moved to the U.S. And we can see again, I didn't try this, the Saturn-Mars, again, the Saturn-Mars conjunction, retrograde. She's got lots of retrograde. Neptune, Uranus, Jupiter, Pluto, Saturn, Mars, very individuated person, very strong-willed individual. North node in Cancer, South node in Capricorn. And this time, this person has Saturn squaring the nodes, and Pluto, and Mars. And this time, the node that needs adjusting, or that she needs to deal with, is the North node in Cancer. And this person does take care of the kids. And the way she does it is through child support. She gets a nice bit of child support, from what I was told. And she works a full-time job under the table. So she's making really good money to take care of this family. She's got a Leo moon. She's got Sun in Aries, Mercury in Aries, Venus in Aquarius. You see that there's less. And she's got the Sun squaring the nodes on the other side. So she's got a lot of experience with life, and she does. And she sounded like a good person, meaning she really would take care of you if you're in her presence. And I do believe that she's a good caretaker, and that she was just, everything she was describing, she was doing it because she felt she had to take care of her kids. And you always see Jupiter and Scorpio retrograde, that redoing of a Scorpio Jupiter. That's, that idea of getting money from child support and under the table, working for some total Scorpio mom and pop business. And again, depends on who you ask. Is this a bad chart? Is this a bad person? Or is she doing what she needs to do to survive? Can you really say it's a bad chart? Brings up a lot of questions I'm not going to ask. But maybe you can come up with some questions by watching this. Some philosophical questions and where this kind of stuff comes from, etc. I'm going to leave it there. Please subscribe and like the video if you like the content. And I am doing readings. If you're interested in a reading, you can contact me at joeastrologer.com. And my website is joeastrology.com.